Why your legs won't let you sleep, and what actually helps. Have you ever lain in bed, completely exhausted, and felt your legs start to crawl, ache, or twitch the second you finally got still? You're not imagining it. You're not just restless, and you're definitely not alone. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this happens more as we get older, what's actually causing it in your specific case, and more importantly, the handful of things backed by real research that can genuinely calm it down. Stick with me to the end, because the most useful fix in this whole video is something almost nobody asks their doctor for, and it's one simple blood test. I want to tell you about my Aunt Carol. She's 68, sharp as ever, and for almost 2 years she told everyone the same thing. I just can't sit still at night. She'd pace the living room at 11 p.m., feet bare on the cold tile, just trying to make the crawling feeling in her shins stop long enough to fall asleep. She tried everything, stretching before bed, cutting out caffeine, a heating pad, you name it. Nothing touched it. It wasn't until her doctor finally ran a full panel, not just iron levels, but specifically her ferritin, the stored iron marker, that anyone found anything. Her ferritin was low, genuinely low. A few months of targeted iron supplementation later, she told me, almost laughing in disbelief, I forgot what it felt like to just lie down and stay down. That one detail. Ferritin, not just iron, is the kind of thing that gets missed constantly, and it's a big part of why I wanted to make this video. So let's actually talk about what's going on here, because once you understand the mechanism, the fixes make a lot more sense. What Carol and millions of people her age are dealing with has an actual name: Restless Leg Syndrome, often just called RLS. It's surprisingly common in older adults, affecting somewhere between 10 and 35% of people over 65. That's not a small number. That's potentially 1 in 3 people in a room of seniors. Here's the part that surprised me most when I dug into the research. When RLS shows up for the first time after age 45, it tends to behave differently than the kind that starts earlier in life. It often progresses faster, and it shows up alongside other health issues more frequently, especially iron deficiency. So if this only started bothering you in the last decade or two, that's actually a meaningful clue, not just bad luck. Why does this happen more as we age at all? Researchers believe RLS is tied to how the brain uses dopamine, and the way the body responds to dopamine can change as we get older. It's also strongly connected to iron deficiency, kidney function, and nerve-related conditions, and all 3 of those become more common with age, even in people who are otherwise healthy. It's not in your head, and it's not something you're doing wrong. It's also not just an annoyance you have to live with. Left unmanaged, it commonly leads to real, lasting insomnia and can affect your mood over time too. That's the quiet cost most people don't talk about. It's not just one bad night. It's the slow accumulation of bad nights that wears you down. So what's actually driving this for you? Let's go through what the research actually points to. The first, and honestly the most important, iron. Specifically, ferritin, your body's iron storage marker. This is exactly what was going on with Carol. Clinical studies have shown that when ferritin levels are low, bringing them back up through supplementation, often paired with a bit of vitamin C to help your body absorb it, leads to real, measurable improvement in symptoms. This is, by far, one of the most evidence-backed and fixable causes on this entire list. Second, that evening drink. I know, a lot of us have a glass of wine to wind down before bed, and it really does feel relaxing in the moment. But here's the catch. Research shows alcohol increases wakefulness during the second half of the night and fragments your sleep. And this happens even with just one low dose, even in people who don't drink heavily at all. It might ease you into sleep, but it actively works against you a few hours later, right when symptoms often creep back in. Third, sitting still for too long in the evening. This one feels almost backwards. After a long day, all you want to do is sit down and rest. But staying sedentary, or simply being bored, is a known trigger for symptoms to flare up, which is part of why it so often hits right when you finally settled into your recliner for the night. Vocal media. Fourth, and this one rarely gets mentioned, your medications. A surprising number of common over-the-counter and prescription drugs can actually worsen these symptoms, and most physicians aren't even fully aware of the complete list. If your symptoms started or got noticeably worse around the same time you began a new prescription, that timing is worth bringing up directly with your doctor by name. Fifth, muscle strength and overall activity level. Newer research has found this condition shows up more often in older adults with lower muscle strength and a slower walking pace, and it seems to run in both directions. Less activity can make symptoms worse, and the poor sleep that follows can, over time, contribute to further muscle loss. That's part of why regular physical activity is consistently recommended as a genuinely evidence-backed way to ease symptoms, not as a vague exercise is good for you suggestion, but as an actual research intervention for this specific problem. So here's exactly what I'd suggest doing with all of this. Start with the ferritin test. Not a general iron panel. Ask specifically for ferritin. If it comes back low, a doctor-guided iron supplement, often combined with vitamin C, has shown real, measurable benefit in controlled studies. This is the single most fixable cause on this list, and it's the one Carol's case came down to. Accio. Shift your evening drink earlier, or skip it some nights. Even moving it a few hours earlier protects the deeper, more restorative part of your sleep later on. Stay lightly active in the evening rather than sitting for hours. Regular movement is one of the most consistently supported ways to ease symptoms. A short walk after dinner counts. You don't need a workout, just motion. Go through your medication list with your doctor and ask plainly, could any of these be contributing to this? Most people never think to ask, and most doctors won't bring it up unless prompted. And for relief in the moment, it's actually happening. Warm or cool baths and gentle massage are both genuinely recommended. Drug-free options you can use right when the crawling or restlessness starts without needing a prescription at all. One more thing worth knowing, because it surprised me too. The evidence linking caffeine to worse symptoms is actually pretty weak and inconsistent, so you don't necessarily need to give up your morning coffee over this. And if things are severe enough that you and your doctor do discuss medication, current guidelines now favor a class called alpha-2 delta ligands, gabapentin, and similar drugs over the older dopamine-based treatments that used to be the default. So that's worth knowing the name of before that conversation. If you take away just one thing from everything I've shared, ask for the ferritin test. It's one simple blood draw. It's inexpensive. And for a meaningful number of people, Carol included, it's the actual root cause, not something you simply have to white knuckle through for the rest of your life. If this helped you understand something your own doctor's visits never quite covered, do me a favor and share it with someone who tosses, turns, and paces the way Carol used to: a parent, a spouse, a friend who always says they just can't sit still at night. And if you want me to keep digging into the sleep issues that actually matter at this stage of life, instead of the scary, exaggerated stuff you usually find online, subscribe. I've got more of these coming, and I'd love for you to be here for them.